supposed to die that night. You're the one who resurrected me, Doctor.
Monster, the best psychological thriller that you've never heard of. I would argue that it is in fact the best thriller / psychological anime within the last decade. The pacing is done very well as the world building and character development. The characters feel real, rounded, and fleshed out. It always feels like there is a real sense of danger, like there's something lurking around the corner, like an ominous entity is always behind the curtain. Throughout the series, we follow Dr. Tenma, a genius-level neurosurgeon who transfers from a not-so-well-known Japanese hospital to a prestigious one in Germany. Tenma is an ideal protagonist, virtuous, kind-hearted, but yet gifted and naive. He has a very optimistic outlook on life and a strong moral compass, which is put to the test in this series. As a matter of fact, in the first episode of the anime, we see the moral dilemma Tenma faces as he decides to follow the director of neurosurgery's orders and operate on a more affluent patient. This in turn gives the hospital more publicity. In the process, a patient he was previously scheduled to operate on that day, in lieu of the affluent patient, dies under another doctor's care. This was the first and major reality check Tenma understood. He knew full well that if it had been him that operated on that patient, he would have survived, thus causing Tenma to spiral into a crisis of conscience. It also didn't help, might I add, that everyone around him did not seem to care. They didn't care about the decision that he had to make and the ramifications of that decision that he had to live with. They just kept living on their lives as, oh, well, that happens.
See, this is one of the reasons I love this series so much. The attention to detail about how cruel the real world actually is, and how every decision you make has good or bad consequences. Most people do not care about things that are happening unless it is at their doorstep. They are too bogged down with the vanities of life to give anything else much thought or care. That is the realest shit ever. Monster illustrates that most people believe they are good until they are faced with a little adversity. Then their true character surfaces and their veneer and fragile facade fades, showing the dark and twisted version of themselves that was always lurking beneath the surface. Humanity, or the human condition if you will, is at its core bleak and fleeting. Often, it comes and goes as the wind blows. You only have a short stay on this earth, and there are only two paths in this life. The straight and narrow path in righteousness, or the broad and wide path leading to damnation. This series, from my perspective, depicts this exceptionally well. Most people have been on the wrong path for so long that they forget what the right one looks like. It truly shows that there are people who are created to be emissaries of darkness, and adversely, others for light. Even though there is so much darkness in this world, even the faintest of light can cut through the darkness. Tenma's character embodies this, while the series' main villain, Johan, is the opposite, once again illustrating the duality of man. Additionally, the anime harps on the ramifications of choices that are made and how it affects the people in the story. Every decision feels like there is real weight behind it, often leading to situations snowballing into bigger ones. This can technically be defined as the law of causality, which would be fitting given the context. Monster is not afraid to make you think or subvert expectations. It is a bit of a slow burn at first, but the build-up and anticipation is the strength of this show. And honestly, I can say that this series is highly underrated, especially if you're a person who loves philosophy, but also a good mystery thriller.
So, in conclusion, Monster asks the question, what happens when an honorable doctor creates a malignant cancer that spreads and devours?